what is amanitvam? So this is our first. So let's first talk about manitvam. Whenever you put this word a in front, it means not manitvam. So let's talk about what is manitvam. So manitvam is wanting others to see you or treat you in a certain way. That means you've already decided inside your mind, you've created a box with certain ticks that have to be checked. And the person is looking for those ticks to be checked wherever they go. That means if I don't get those ticks checked, that means I am not respected. So in other words, I'm walking about with my box of ticks, and I'm looking for them to be now ticked according to what I had defined what it means to feel or be respected. In other words, the person's already designed a template from their own notions of what it means to be respected. Suppose you go to an event and the person, this is a common situation, is now looking for, like who's now being respected, who's, getting all of the looks, who's kind of being listened to, who's not being listened to. So in other words, one goes to an event, instead of being present with people, what are they thinking? How the person should be talking to me right now, how they should be responding to what I am saying. In other words, I'm looking for those cues, for those markers. What are those markers going to tick my checkbox? And then what do? I start to inflate my accomplishments. I start to kind of like mention them. Hey, here's what I've done. Here's, what I've gone through, all for the sake of getting that response from the other, which to me means, I am respected. So instead of being concerned about the conversation, I'm concerned about what? Filling in my ticks of what it means to be respected. In other words, manitvam is when the mind is invested in proving its own self-worth, its own state of goodness. I am a good human being, and I'm constantly looking for markers to verify that through the means of others. So manitvam means having an exaggerated opinion about oneself. And that transforms into a state of excessive pride. That means you have accomplished something, no doubt, but you use those accomplishments and then you blow it up and you make sure it is out loud. It's heard by all. It is known by all. It has to be out there, right? And then the person, uses that as a form of verifying how worthy they are. Now, what is the basis of manitvam? What gives rise to this state of looking to be respected, demanding respect? As Lorena said, low self-esteem. In other words, insecurity. So the more insecure the person is, the more they need to project themselves out there in the state of what I have accomplished, in a sense of what I have done, in a sense of who I am. Look at Duryodhana, for example. Before the war began, he turns back to all of the men who just happen to be on his side, who probably want to be home with their wives. And Duryodhana looks at these men and says, see all of these men? They're all now prepared to die for me. He doesn't even know that, right? These men are certainly not willing to die for him. They're willing to go back into their houses and enjoy themselves with their family. So Duryodhana is, in this example, inflating his status about himself. And he's even creating a narrative how important he is, that all of the men are willing to die for me.
Yeah, is that an example of those men had an obligatory value and Duryodhana thought they had a personal value? They had an obligatory value to fight, where he thought they had a personal value to fight for him and die for him.
Yeah, so in other words, his personal value was so in other words, he took something that he misrepresented and he took that misrepresented knowledge as a personal value because he hasn't looked further into is it really true, right? He hasn't asked, is it really true? And could this be not the case? In other words, assumption causes me to make claims that are not in line with reality. Okay, so in other words, and the more confident the person is, what happens then? Then the less need you have to project yourself to others. The more insecure, the more need to project. The more reassured the person is about him or herself, the less one has a need to project themselves outwards. In other words, the more evolved a person is, the less need they have to show themselves to others. in terms of what they have done, who they are, and the hard work they have gone through to come to this place, right? Now, what are some examples of how society shows their need for respect or shows their need of demanding respect? One of the ways is by asking you questions. In other words, suppose I meet you and I say, okay, who are you? Where are you from? Where do you live? And so I'm trying to kind of assess, where do you stand and where do I stand in relation to you? Now, I'm not saying, of course, everyone does this for the same reasons, but I'm just showing you how these psychological traits come through innocent questions by trying to establish, where does this person sit, so that I can feel either more superior or less superior to them. And therefore, then we put them into a box established through our questions. Another way is through emotional arrogance. And this is expressed mostly through passive aggressive methods. For example, suppose, you're not kind of like showing your annoyance, but you're still showing it in a very cunning way. So suppose I'm being passive aggressive to you, and I say to you, you're not going to understand, right? You won't understand. You got many more years to go. So I kind of just like brush you off like that. That's called being passive aggressive. I might as well just, be more out loud and swear at you. That was be more honest. So passive aggressive is a lot more subtle, but it's still aggressive. The other method is through intellectual arrogance. This is expressed in the form of wanting to win all the time. That means winning becomes your number one goal in life. In other words, my goal in life is about correcting others and not looking at their opinions and basing it in the light of what I have said and seeing if I've got any loopholes, but rather using others' opinions only to debate them and therefore to establish my view as the view. So in other words, the buddhi, this mechanism is used to reinforce one's pre-existing knowledge, pre-existing belief systems. The other one is through spiritual arrogance. This is whereby the person says, everyone's ignorant, right? After gaining knowledge, they now say everyone's ignorant. 99% of these people, they're all just material beings. This is very common, by the way. And so we kind of brush them off because now, in the light of my superiority, I want to feel more superior. I want to feel respected. And you're just a material person. Therefore, in that comparison, I now feel more than you. I feel like more above you. And so in other words, it's still the same person, right? In a non-spiritual state, there was a sense of putting down others. In a spiritual state, there's still a sense of putting down others, just the language has changed. Before, you don't have as much money as I have. Now you don't have as much knowledge as I have. So the same person is there. The problem hasn't been fixed. Or the other one is to put on a fake show of kindness. So now we pick up attributes like be kind, be gentle, show your empathy, show your compassion. And then we show this to people only for the sake of an agenda of being seen as a kind, compassionate person. So it's got nothing to do with actually understanding what it is, but it's using a dharmic quality to manipulate the environment as to tick my own boxes in my own mind. Now, what is the opposite extreme of? There's also the opposite extreme version of this quality, and that is to deny respect. Sometimes, in the spiritual field, we say, no, I don't want any respect. Just kind of pretend like, humble, and you don't need any of this, and none of this is mine. It's all Ishwara's. Suppose you say this. What's the reality, psychologically speaking? The reality is everyone has a psychological need and everyone thrives through feeling admired. Is that not true? We all thrive by feeling admired in one thing or the other. Now, suppose a spiritual person says, no, this is all just mithya. I don't need to feel admired. The body is getting admired. And they make this conversation. What are you now going against? You're going against Ishwara's order. Ishwara's order, in the terms of psychology, is to thrive by being admired for your skills. And now the person is saying, I don't need to do that. No, it's just, whatever, I don't want to hear it. Don't mention it, right? In other words, I am dismissing, even though I genuinely inside need it. So this is the opposite extreme, how we take something into another, extreme version. As I said, the mind is ingenious how it finds ways to twist the facts into one extreme or the other. It does this every time. So we have to mention these subtle matters. So what I'm saying is, in other words, don't pretend. Don't say that nothing matters to me. Things do matter to you. Can we deny this? No, we can't deny this. If we're honest, we will say honestly, things do matter to me end of the day, because there's still a human being here. So I can't say, no, I'm Atma, I'm free, I'm beyond all this. Inside that person, whether they say it or not, still wants to be admired, still thrives on being admired. Yeah. Now, question is, how do you free yourself from manitvam? How to be free from this need to feel respected by others? Because it's a huge, in fact, one of the primary needs in human beings is to feel respected, is to be respected, is to receive markers of respect. So now, how do we correct this? How do we free ourselves from this extreme need to constantly receive verifications that I am worthy, that I am indeed, an individual that is adequate? Firstly, see the foolishness. It's completely foolishness to demand constant respect from others. Why? First of all, as the book said, your qualifications may not get recognized by those who are not in your field of expertise. Not only that, but your qualifications are only relative to that specific field. The moment you get out of that field, when the tennis player goes into a chess competition, no one's admiring the chess player, the tennis player. They're all admiring the chess people, right? In other words, now suppose the tennis player wants the respect. He can't get it because these people simply do not understand. They don't value tennis. They value chess. This is another thing with, there's one story of, suppose the chef is now sitting next to you on an airport, and you don't know they're a #1 chef in the world, right? They're a very popular chef. And you're just kind of treating them like a normal person. Now, they're so used to being treated like a king or a queen, depends on their gender. And they're like, they're confused. I'm supposed to feel respected here. Give me respect. But you're not interested in food. Therefore, to you, they're just another normal person. So if that chef doesn't understand this, then that is going to be their suffering, because they're expecting respect from everyone. But realistically, you cannot get respect from everyone because we don't have all knowledge. If you know biology and I don't know biology, then I cannot get myself to respect you in that field so much because I just do not know biology so much. So it's completely normal not to receive respect from other people, considering we all have different niche groups of interests. Another example is celebrities. Suppose you don't like action movies, but a celebrity does action movies, and they're always in their group of action movie fans. And then you come along, you only like romantic movies, for example. I don't know, what movies do you like? Maybe, okay, whatever, right? You like a different genre of movies. And, they feel hurt because they're so used to movie fans always admiring them and giving them all of the looks and the talking about them. So now they get hurt because you don't value action movies. Therefore, to them, they're just another person to you. So in other words, we always value something within our own value structure. That's a fact. The second point is why it is foolish is that a person may not feel good. Suppose they're low on testosterone or dopamine or serotonin levels, right? And no matter what you do, they cannot get themselves to show their respect because they're not in the mood of showing you respect. Right. So in other words, food, is the person hungry? That could also affect how much they have, how much they're showing that respect towards you. Could they have the fight earlier on? Did they have a bad day? Did they sleep properly because of some neighbor that was making the noise? That also could have impacted how good they feel. Therefore, how much of that respect you receive. The third reason is the mind is distorted. In other words, sometimes what happens is this respect comes in the form of jealousy. So they do have respect for you, but that respect in their mind has turned into a form of jealousy. So now they say, oh, they're so good. She's so good at what they do. He's so good at what he does. And so instead of feeling respect, they feel jealous and they avoid you. And I suppose you now interpret, oh, they don't like me. But what is that because of? Because of their own psychology. It's got nothing to do with you. In other words, because of their own distortions, they've turned something into something else. This is called misrepresenting the facts, as we spoke about earlier. This also happens in terms of distortions in an intimate relationship. Sometimes is both partners go into a power struggle. So both of them are trying to say, my way of feeling respected is by you fulfilling my likes and dislikes. If you do that, then I'll tick my little box of I feel respected. But the other is also trying to do that. So now they're both in this kind of like the struggle. Okay, you need to do things for me and I need to do things for you, right? But no one's trying to do things for each other because they're all both looking for someone to go first, right? So, and then obviously when no one's responding, then you ant up the ante. Now you kind of remove some privileges. Okay, I'm not going to cook you a dinner tonight, right? Or I'm not going to talk to you. So I'm not going to watch the movie with you, just to kind of subtly let you know, passive aggressive, that, I'm not pleased with your behavior. You're not taking my respect boxes. So I'm just, showing you how, the complexity of a human being goes in all directions. The fourth reason is you can't be the best in anything. Why it's foolish. Because no matter how much you know, there's always someone going to outdo you. But also, as the book said earlier, every book that you read, when you die, how many books have you still not read? That was a good one, right? So this means that if you think about it, right, no matter how much knowledge you get, are you really worthy of respect, considering how little you know in the aspect of total knowledge? So this is another thing to bring forward. Now, the question that I brought originally was how to free yourself from manitvam. Number one, see the foolishness. Number two, become the person that commands respect. Not the person that asks for respect, but commands respect. Just like a rose, a beautiful, shining, fragrant rose, fresh in itself. It doesn't grow for the sake of kind of attracting innocent bystanders, go, hey, smell me, so I can feel good about myself. No, just the beauty, the innocent beauty of the rose is going to attract people to it. In other words, it commands respect just by being itself. So in that same way, become the person that naturally commands respect. It's not like you're becoming for the sake of commanding respect, but you're becoming good at a particular field that people naturally admire.
This is our psychological need to get a respect or to demand respect or to feel appreciated, right? We said that this is our psychological need. And then we discussed how to free ourselves from this. The one way was to make you feel inadequate. When we give examples like, okay, I cannot read all the books, so I'm inadequate. Or I'm a wrestler, but I cannot pick up a mountain. I'm inadequate, right? And the second set of examples were labeling the other people. That, okay, they might not be in the mood or they may not be appreciating what we are doing. So is this positive? Are these positive ways of freeing ourselves from this need of getting appreciated by others?
I wouldn't really put them positive or negative, just seeing where is it that I'm looking, demanding respect, and where is it where respect is naturally due, right? So there's a difference between the two. Suppose I go into a room and I'm like, okay, now everyone's supposed to kind of, worship me. That is an unhealthy way of demanding for respect. But if someone just comes innocently because they appreciate the person with knowledge, they appreciate the person for, their talents, and they just innocently offer that, then that is definitely a positive reception of respect. That is definitely nourishing for the person who receives it, for the receptor. But for that receptor to now go, oh, this is so good. It feels so good to receive this kind of respect. I want more. And then they start to get hooked onto it. That is a negative version, as you would call it.
So I was saying that all the examples that we discussed, what I understood was, like in the examples where I say that I should not be asking respect or demand appreciation because I'm inadequate, because I can't read all the books, because I cannot pick up a mountain. I have the psychological innate need to feel appreciated or getting the respect. That's what we established.
Yeah.
And now when I'm asking for it, I am trying to settle myself by saying that I'm not adequate enough, that I should look for respect.
We're not saying that you look for respect. As I said, if you receive respect, you receive respect. That is your moment of appreciation. If you don't receive it, then you're not in that time of non-reception looking for it. You're not thinking, oh, I haven't received respect for such a long time. I want some respect. But if you do receive respect, absolutely receive it, admire it, and then let it go. It's like giving you a compliment, and it's like, oh, thanks. But you don't make much of it. You don't like create a big story out of it. So that's what we're saying.
Also, I would say it's not putting yourself down by saying that you can't read all the books. It's just a fact. And that if you remember that your true nature is Brahman, then you're unlimited. But your limited nature is limited, It's just a fact. So you don't have to get down because of that. Just remember who you really are.
It's an interesting point, because just the idea of commanding respect, I think, is great. But if it's not natural to you, then it feels like you have to then change yourself. And I would have thought it's more about accepting yourself.
Yeah, and if you accept yourself, then you naturally won't be demanding for respect, because non-acceptance of oneself, how does one compensate? By asking, please accept me, please validate my existence, say I am worthy. And that's when this principle of looking goes externally. That means I'm looking at out there. So see, we're not saying that receiving respect is unhealthy. If you receive it, great. I'm only saying is if you're demanding for, if you need it, if you're like insecure about yourself to the point where you need to receive respect no matter what. And if you don't, then there's an emotional response, like I'm angry now, how dare you treat me like this?
I was thinking from a genuine situation. Okay, I've really done a good thing. For example, let me take the example. I've done something good for my community, for my society. I've done a very good thing, and it is natural for me to look for some kind of appreciation, right? And then when I go or face that community and I don't get it, now what I feel from the examples that we have taken in this class today, that in order to deal with that situation of looking for appreciation and I'm not getting it, because that's the place I should be getting it, because I did that work for them, right? And I'm not getting it.
Yeah,
I have to settle myself that need.
absolutely. Yeah,
that
you have
psychological need.
Yeah.
Now, in order to settle it, I'm giving myself examples that I may not have done good enough for them to appreciate me, right?
Got it.
Or
Yeah.
these people don't know how valuable the work I have done, therefore they are not appreciating me.
Yeah, those are both possibilities. Absolutely.
These are the possibilities, and by giving these reasons, I'm settling my need. So my question is, the responses that I'm giving to my need, okay, don't ask for appreciation, just settle down. These people don't know how to appreciate you. Are these a good satisfier for me? Because again, I think these are not in the right spirit, or these are not positive enough. I am getting into the loop of labeling the people or telling myself, oh, I have not done good enough.
Got it. So the question is, there's two options. Either they're incompetent, they cannot recognize how good I've done, or I have not done enough. These are always two options. You cannot really expect from them because they may not feel good, right? They may kind of interpret your situation of having done something else, or they may show respect in a way that to you doesn't mean respect. They show respect in one way, but to you, it's not compatible with your respect chart. Therefore, you have received respect, Mina, but you haven't interpreted it to mean that. You thought it's something else. This is another possibility. Now let's go back to you. Suppose that you have not done enough. Well, the reality is that is also a narrative that goes on in the mind. However, is it not true that you have done it nevertheless? Even if you did better, is it not true that you could have said, I could have done better to that also? So I could have done better has no ending. No matter how good you do something, you will always ask, could have I done better?
You just have to believe in yourself, because I get that every day at my work. The management and the upper management and the head nurses and all the big wigs, they never see what the PCAs do in the rooms helping people.
Yeah, wow.
They never see, because we're behind closed doors. There's confidentiality and privacy and dignity, and It's never seen. You just have to know yourself that you've done the right thing for the person that you're with. People that give out awards and all this stuff, they never see what we do. So you're not there to prove anything to anyone other than yourself that you've done the right thing for that person who says thank you because they can't do it.
This is excellent point. Lorena is bringing, unless
it's not,
what matters is, are you happy with the work that you've done, right?
You have to believe in your own self. That's it.
Yeah.
That you're doing the right thing, you know?
In the moment while you're doing it. That's all you need to do, right?
That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Being satisfied while you're doing it is what really matters at the end of the day. See, now we can divide this word obligation into two more categories. Obligation out of the fact I do it, but I actually don't want to. And obligation out of upholding the tradition, right? Because it's the right thing to do. It's, you know, you're paying respect to the elderlies. So I would say when it comes to respect the elderlies, it is an obligation, but it's not an obligation of I don't want to. It's more like I'm paying respect to, because I see you, you know, the amount of work that you've done and, you know, your wisdom and, you know, where you're coming from. So on the basis of that, I pay respect. Yeah, but if,
also,
you know,
you're trying to imagine yourself in their shoes. How would it be not being able to walk from here to there?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, try and imagine the hardships they probably feel just on a normal daily basis.
Yeah.
You can just walk away 5 minutes, you're gone. You know, it's easy for us when we're younger.
Yeah, exactly.
So that sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah. So on that brings you a level of obligation to care for them. Robert?
Yeah, I think this is an example where it starts out as an obligation because as children, we may not naturally understand why we're paying this respect. We're taught to pay that respect, so it's obligatory. But as we mature and understand what the elderly people contributed, then it moves from being an obligatory taught value to one we've been assimilated, internalized, and personalized.
So what Robert is saying is obligatory value can also transform into a personal value through our maturity of seeing, you know, what it really means to be older, how much they have really gone through. So now your obligatory value transforms into something that is personal, more real. Yeah.
Andre, I'm just trying to understand, why are we sort of dividing the values into universal and obligatory, in the sense that every universal value can be in certain situations. Every universal value can feel like an obligation. So what's the purpose of dividing the values?
Obligatory values, suppose they're not assimilated. That means you're just doing it for the sake of being told. They're called mental precepts, right? They're the precepts from like mandates. Here's what I'm supposed to do. So you're not completely in line. You're not completely congruent with what you're doing. It's more like I do it mechanically, but there's no heart behind it. There's no understanding behind it. So even though it is an obligation, but you still don't understand what is the nature of what I am doing. So in other words, you need to convert that obligation into a personal value. Just like I said, the example with parents, right? It is an obligation to take care of parents, but I need to convert that obligation into a personal value whereby I want to, where it's meaningful and important for me. Whereas before it's like I have to. So it goes from I have to I want to. That's the difference.
But wouldn't sort of like practicing these obligations, as we are calling them, wouldn't they set the stage for assimilation, in the sense this would be sort of like a practice?
Absolutely, yeah.
And eventually we sort of assimilate it.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're bringing out is now, suppose they don't remain assimilated, they just remain obligatory. If the person doesn't reflect on that, then their values remain merely obligatory. In other words, mechanical. And there's no joy in doing mechanical, obligatory things. So we're adding life to what was previously mechanical. How do you free yourself from manitvam? And the last one I said was by becoming the person who commands respect. In other words, becoming good at something. The other way is understand that by demanding respect, it turns people away, actually, because nobody wants to be pressured. And you need people to prosper. You need people to thrive. So suppose, you know, now, like, you know, you want respect and you want to be looked at in a certain way. And you feel this, like, hey, wait a minute, I'm also a human being, right? You're ignoring my presence here. In other words, you're not seeing me as a person. And then you just naturally turn away. In fact, I had a friend, you know, who was like this, and I really got turned off by, you know, what happened. He called me to meet him after 2 years, and I met him. He was like making movies, and I met him, right? I was like, I want to see my friend, talk to him one-on-one, and he was like talking with an actress. I was like, what is this? You know, you're kind of doing your business here, and you're completely ignoring. I'm just like sitting there waiting for him to finish talking with the actress, right? Even though we met at the time that was set. And then after he stopped speaking with her, he meets with another actress. And I'm like, what is this? You're not, you know, are you trying to get me to see how popular you are, or you're meeting me as a friend? And I just kind of, you know, hung around there for as long as I could, you know, talked. And then that's the last time I saw him. It was a real turnoff. So this is what we call demanding respect, wanting to be seen, how popular I am, how I'm doing things, you know, how I'm busy making transactions, right? But actually, what are you doing? Turning people away. So demanding respect always turns people away.
If I demand respect, you know, that turns people away. But if I don't give respect, that also turns people away from me, right?
See, you would give respect where respect is due. You're not going to give respect for the sake of flattery, because that is dishonest. But if you give respect where it's due, like generally, you know, you're generally paying respect to an elderly person who is smart or is expertise in some field, that is absolutely welcome. But to give it for the sake of impressing them so that you can feel superior, so you can kind of like fit in, that is where the mistake gets made. So it all comes down to, am I being honest with my intentions when it comes to giving respect? When it comes to receiving respect, as I said, there's no guarantee you will receive respect, because the person may not feel comfortable. They may share it in a way that you don't understand. They may not, you know, something happened earlier on and they're just not kind of like in that mode of worshiping or giving you respect. You may or may not receive it, but don't depend on it. Recognize that you're not the owner of your body. So whatever your body and your mind has learned came from elsewhere. All of the knowledge that you have and the body that you're given came from plants, right? And the knowledge came from books, and the books came from ink. And some person designed the ink to print the books, and some driver, you know, delivered the books to you. So now who should I really, you know, honor here? The driver, the ink, the printing press, the concept of words, the English language, the teacher who taught me the English language so I can understand English now in the future. Who exactly deserve the respect? So in other words, we need to understand that we are where we are as a result of many contributions of many people. So now to demand respect implies what? I have done it all because of my own efforts. But that's not true. You've only done it because of the help of many other around you, whether known or unknown. Everything is because of me alone. No. Parents, food, the hard work they put into you, cleaning your nappies, right? And, you know, the people have delivered this knowledge, you know, in the tradition format. What do you do if this manitwam keeps reappearing? Suppose now, again, you come to a situation, you say, no, I want to feel respected here. I've contributed to my community and I want to receive a little bit of acknowledgement. Okay, firstly, acknowledge. Step one. Yes, here is me again asking for acknowledgement. That's the first thing you can say. Here I am again, asking for this need to be respected. Step two, then you can apply one of the methods that I just mentioned, and you can say, is there any logic in really demanding for so much respect, considering I didn't really do anything myself, right? I did a little bit, but didn't do everything, considering others have also helped me be this person that I am today. And finally, what is the indicator of manitwam going away? The indicator is you're comfortable with yourself. You're more comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable with this person that's being carried around. And this comfort is a result of amanitwam. So what is amanitwam? Absence of everything that we just talked about. And this is our first value. And then next week, I will obviously revise value 1, and then I will go into value 2. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.